Hey guys, so today we are going to go ahead and go over lesson 5, which is going to be over energy usage. So that should wrap up our second section of our our unit. So today we're going to be looking at how much energy do we use. So after this, your objectives here, you should be able to summarize the present global energy usage and future energy needs. So today what we're going to be looking at, you can kind of see up here, we're going to be looking at how much energy the world needs and how much energy the world uses per capita. And then there's a couple of links on your presentation that give you access to podcasts that I will want you to listen to. They're only about 3 or 4 minutes long, and they're going to be looking at some specific energy usage needs. There's one in India, and then there's one in the US. So it will be pretty vital that you listen to those. And then we are going to look at how we can calculate our own energy usage. Okay, so that's what this week's lesson is going to be over. Okay, so looking at our first slide here, it says, or it asks, how much energy do we use? And this map in particular is kind of showing world energy consumption per capita. What they mean per capita is per person. So these big blue dots here kind of show the major areas that use a lot of energy. And I'll go ahead, this isn't on your slideshow, but I'm going to back this up with some information from the U.S. Energy Administration's website. And I will go ahead and link that to you in your materials section. I'll also go ahead and link those podcasts if you're not able to access them through the PowerPoint. You'll be able to access them by going through the materials folder. So according to the website, the world average per capita energy usage, and this was in 2017, it was around 77 million BTUs. And if you remember back to our very first lesson, BTUs equal British thermal units. So worldwide, it was 77 million BTUs. Okay. However, if you look at the US, which is on this map of being a pretty big energy consumer, we had around 309 million BTUs per person. So if you calculate the numbers here, the US population is around 327.2 million people, roughly. So if you work with those numbers, it shows that Americans actually constitute 5% of the world's population. So we as Americans make up 5% of the world's population. However, we consume about 24% of the world's energy. So that's pretty major. If we look within the United States, the website actually shows that Louisiana has the highest per capita total of energy usage, and they are at about 960 million BTUs. Okay, so that's pretty outrageous. It's almost triple the amount of BTUs on average that America uses as a whole. So the reason for this is just because they have the highest per capita industrial sector for energy consumption. So, like I said, I will link the site in the materials for more information about global per capita energy usage. Okay, so moving on to our next slide, this just kind of shows in a different way. It just kind of shows a line graph of America's energy usage versus the world. So we can see here we have America up here and we have the world down here. So there is quite a bit of difference. We are much higher in our energy use than the rest of the world is. In fact, we are about 6 times the world average of energy usage. So there's a note here, and this is very important. Per capita, meaning per person, so both population and energy use play major roles here. And this can include climate and heating depending on where you live. So an example of this would be Iceland. It has a pretty low population, but it has very cold temperatures, meaning that they will probably use more energy in order to heat their homes or wherever they live. But again, it just kind of depends on where you are. So say that you live in a fairly neutral climate area, and you have a pretty low population. That means your energy usage probably isn't going to be as much. So these are some major things that you are going to want to pay attention to whenever it comes to looking at the average per region. All right, so moving on to our next slide. It says here that other countries often lack the infrastructure and resources to meet energy demands, especially electrical. And this is particularly true for this podcast titled Growing Pains, The Nation Balance Growth and Power Needs. Again, I really do want you to listen to this. I'll provide each of the links to you in the material section. Because the questions on your assignment for this week, they're going to pertain to this. So, but I will give you a quick rundown of what each of these is going over. So, this Growing Pains one, it's about a 4-minute listen, and it was produced in 2012. So here it says that developing nations, and in this case India, whose massive population is demanding more energy or more need for energy than they have available. And then this particularly has to do with electrical power grids. So remember in the lesson over the history of human energy usage or energy consumption, remember that the supply for energy is always, it's never going to meet the demand. So there's always going to be a higher demand for energy than there is going to be a supply. Okay, so this is pretty much kind of what that goes over in the case of India, which is a developing nation. And it says here about worldwide, 1 out of 3 people is without reliable electricity. So that's where they're kind of drawing their numbers from, are the developing nations. So what the next slide kind of goes over is that even developed countries like the US even struggle to keep up with the high demands for energy. So the podcast here has to do with coal mines reopening to meet the US energy demands. And this is about a 3-minute listen. It was published back in 2006. But the main idea here is that coal miners had to take some time off of work. I think this was due to an incident in Virginia where 16 coal miners had been killed due to some kind of safety regulation that wasn't being followed. So the coal miners had to take some time off of work so that the companies could look at some of the safety procedures. And while these coal miners were taking time off of work, there were a lot of difficulties with trying to supply the nation's demand for energy, because we know that coal is a major source of energy for many people in the U.S. So that was kind of about that struggle here. So again, I'll be posting this in the material section, and I would like you to go ahead and listen to that. Okay, and lastly, what they are going to have you do today for your lesson is go to a website where you can calculate the energy usage in your household. Okay, so there's a link here that I will be posting in your materials website. It's wisconsinpublicservice.com. So you'll go to that link, and I'll kind of explain what they ask you for so they can calculate your household energy usage. So pretty much what you do is fill in some questions saying, okay, how many hours a day or how many months out of a year do you use appliances like, say, your kitchen appliances, electronics, so like video games, laptops, DVD players, stuff like that. And it'll ask you some questions about like your heating and cooling. So all different kinds of topics that have to do with using energy. So what that'll do once you answer all of those questions, it'll give you a total yearly figure for how much your energy usage is going to cost. So the second step here is it says the world's per capita consumption of electricity is about 1/6 of that of the U.S. So you're going to take your total and you are going to divide it by 6. So my total was around 4,000. I go ahead and divide that by 6. So you're going to get a new number here, and that is going to be your new goal for your energy usage. So the way you're going to meet that new goal is by eliminating, say, like how much time you spend on your video games, how much you like run your air conditioning, stuff like that. So one by one, you're going to eliminate those. And this will probably be your discussion post question on Thursday, so tomorrow. So go ahead and figure out what that is. And I'm not sure if I asked you about it in your assignment, but I might have. So again, all of the links for today, they are going to be in the materials folder. And after this lesson, you should be able to go ahead and finish up your assignment for the week, but still make sure that you are participating in your discussion posts. All right, thanks, guys.